This podcast contains descriptions of extreme violence, body horror, and adult language. Please check the description for details. Viewer discretion is advised. So you make this post on the Dredge message board, basically, and it's pretty much the first time that you've posted here in a long time, and it is not too long before you do actually receive some messages from two other dredges who don't seem to be occupied at the moment, which are Hyde and the Iron Asura. They basically post their own, responses to say that they are willing to come and help, and you organize a time. I can only imagine either later today or tomorrow. It's up to you, I suppose. You're kind of like the initiating party here.
I think she would say, just very early tomorrow, basically, to at least give herself some rest before then.
And that does give you some time, because I believe you want to look over the disc. I can only imagine now.
Yeah, she definitely, while she's waiting on, she doesn't want to, miss any potential response, so she's been waiting till after that, but, just kind of idly taking a break in the meantime. But she definitely is on pins and needles, so once that's organized, she'll put that back in, yeah.
Right, yeah, you put forward a time tomorrow morning, and it's fairly obvious where this place is. Everyone knows where the place is. You don't even have to tell them. But you do organize to meet at a small little, for lack of a better term, plaza. It's hard to call it a plaza in this city, considering exactly how packed together everything is, but it's, got a little bit more breathing room compared to the normal blocks that are stacked on top of each other. And there is, you know the place, I imagine, because it's one of the decent places to get food in collector territory, considering that it's pretty near the Grow Tower. And after you get the voices of agreement from both of them, you put the disc, you take the disc out from your stomach.
Yeah, no, I think she goes to put it in and then remembers, oh, fuck, well, that was pointless, and has to cut her stomach open to get it out again, yeah.
Oh, dear. Yeah, you take the knife to your stomach and you fish out the disc. The stomach wound, once again, healing, pretty much straight away, which is, a strange thing to watch. Do you want to take a closer look at the healing process, or are you kind of more just you're just watching it? What's your kind of attitude about this newly developed ability of yours?
I think that Vex's mindset on it is she's trying, she's partially trying not to think about the implications too much, but also kind of is well, I'm not a medical person, even if I did look, what would I see, right? So I think she's just kind of occasionally glances over to see it happening, but then doesn't really look any closer than that.
That's fair. Yeah, you make, I imagine, some kind of mental note to maybe talk to Stitch about it at some point, but for now you have answers to obtain elsewhere. You take the disc out from the now horribly bloodied Ziploc bag and carefully place it in, and you go through the process of opening up the documents, and you are once again right back where you were left off. And I believe the last... correct me if I'm wrong, the last journal that you, or I suppose progress report that you read, had essentially stated that this test subject was ready to move on to the next part of this entire operation.
Yeah, pretty much. That she was, like, she was performing beyond expectations, yeah.
Yeah. You see as well that there is actually a indicator on a number of these entries, which seems to correlate with something that you had actually previously opened, because you open the next entry and it once again reads, see attached file for progress report, and it has another one of those unrecognized video files like the one you saw before, and you realize when you go back to the directory that there is actually a small esoteric symbol that just indicates that there is a video attachment, and you kind of realize as you click through them that pretty much every single one is the same. It is all just indicating see the attached, which immediately basically rules out, on the first half of the entries, only roughly about like a quarter of them. But you see as it gets to the second half, there is a pretty significant chunk which are suddenly now these strange video files. So it seems that whatever they were doing later on, it became more and more worthy of recording visually. But nonetheless, you move on. You find the next entry, and in this one, it is seemingly more of the same. It's a lot of stuff about like what drugs have been administered, what basic timekeeping stuff, and there is only one thing at the end that really kind of indicates that there is something sinister going on in regards to her own progression, which is that there is a small note from the same redacted name that you'd seen before, shorter than the ones you'd seen previously, which is, the rest of Group H have been dying quicker than we expected. Apparently this batch was defective. And then it has very plainly 67% mortality rate as of, and then there is a redacted date. You, I only imagine, move on to the next one.
Yep.
Right. You do so. There is once again a list of procedures. But this time, you see that there is a highlighted one. And it seems to be notable as well, because it has a somewhat small number at the end of it of 4. And you see an addendum attached to it, which says, "This is only our 4th time trying this. Let's hope that this works out." And there is a date set in. There is a time set in for the major surgery that it seems that it's going to be. And then there is one last checkup on this mysterious person, this case, amongst this Group H, which they are apparently part of. You see at the start of the next entry, there is a progress update that says, that basically says 82% mortality rate. And below that, it says, "Despite the rest of Group H being notably incapable of handling the preliminary and preparatory surgeries, we have once again been surprised by this subject. It is at this point that I feel my own sentimentality driving me to suggest a name for them. I propose we begin referring to this subject as Hope." You scroll down, and there is another set of images of her. She is looking so much worse than she was before. But it's not necessarily by virtue of her looking malnourished or something like that. It's it's just how much is going on with her. You can see that there are these just scars running all over her from various times that she has been opened up at different parts of her body. No longer just various needle injection sites and such, but seemingly places where it almost seems as if the scar is so deep that they may have even removed parts of her body at some point and sewn them back on. More importantly, or perhaps more notably, is her expression. She looks haggard. And you recall back to those memories you've had of her. You can't obviously place exactly when they took place in comparison to these logs. She was completely spotless in your memories. There wasn't a single scar. It looked like she had never been touched. It looked like she'd been freshly born the day before in regards to exactly how injured she looked like she was. And yet here she is, looking almost like a stitched together mannequin.
Vex would just look again at the last of the now almost fully healed wound on her stomach, just before returning her attention to the screen.
You move to the next entries, and this is where the video files pick up in frequency. There must be a dozen in a row, none of which are accessible. All except one file, where in addition to the attached video that you can't open, you see that there is a host of image files, not embedded into the text like you've seen previously, just attached, thus they don't open automatically, likely on account of how many there are.
She accesses them.
You click it open, and even someone like you, someone who has seen some incredibly horrible sights, horrific scenes of people blown apart or cut into pieces, even you are taken aback. Because what greets you in this album of images is so far beyond anything you have ever seen. You see this woman is laid out in an operating theatre, and every single part of her has been opened. Her limbs, her torso, her whole body has been pulled apart, her skin peeled back, her muscles detached and rolled out, her nervous system and circulatory system pulled from the flesh and suspended above her, as if she was some grim scientific display. She now looks more akin to a diagram you'd see in a medical textbook. But everything is still attached to her, still leading back into her body, back to one location that is barely more intact than the rest of her, her neck and head. And as you click to the next photos, you see a close-up of her head, which also has its skin peeled away to reveal the veins and nerves, and you feel your stomach drop as when you click to the next photo, you see her eyes follow the camera, wide open in sheer terror, and you realize that she was conscious for this whole thing. You press on and start to realize that they are applying something to her. It's some kind of strange substance that almost resembles the pluripotent cell mixtures that are used when Stitch has healed you in the past. But it's different. It's almost as if the mixture is partially alive. You see as the medical staff are applying it to her veins and her arteries and the nervous system, the substance appears to grow these small appendages and limbs that seem to, like, grasp and grab hold of her. Everything else is various medical tools and a vast amount of medical staff, just a huge number of them, attending to every part of her body and keeping her intact and unharmed.
Vex is stomach churns and she grits her teeth, almost just squinting her eyes slightly so she just has some kind of filter against it. Just as a strange quirk of the human subconscious, she starts breathing through her mouth instead of her nose. However, she does will herself to look through them, looking for any details or similarities or discrepancies from her own situation with exactly how these appendages work and what they're connected to. Anything with the heart specifically, she'd look for details about that. But probably only for a few minutes, because there's only so much she can tell anyway.
And you find it. You watch as, when this substance is applied to her, as it crawls all over the various parts of her body that it has managed to find purchase within using these pseudo-living appendages, it appears to bleach every part of her viscera and organs and bones, and it just leaves it pure white as it gets hold of her entire body. And as you keep clicking through these photos, almost as if to answer your question directly, you search for something to do with the heart, and as you go to the next image, squarely in the center of the frame, there it is. Her heart. Held in the hand of one of the surgeons while still attached to her body, the arteries and veins still sprawling outward into her chest cavity. And crawling over it, you see this same substance, bleaching it pure white as it slowly engulfs her entire heart over the course of the next few images, until the final one, where you see it fully and totally white.
Would these computers, like, have the functionality to, like, either save images or take screenshots or anything of that nature?
You can... I think so. Even old I wouldn't say this is old to a point where that is not doable. I think there's a print screen button that you can use to essentially back this up on your own files.
She's going to back up the files of some of the key things for sure, as well as specifically the images of just, like, you know, not every single one, but just, like, some of the major points of, like, this woman's progression, and then, like, the end point with the substance and the system coming to life, seemingly. And she's going to put those in a file, and if possible, send that off to Stitch with a message attached, basically explaining, like, you know, the context.
Yeah. So he doesn't get jump scared.
And saying, like, you know, don't look on a full stomach, you know, the standard Vex way of phrasing things, where she basically she doesn't explain everything laboriously, but she basically says, like, I'd like your thoughts on this, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And you do that. You get that sorted and you send off the email. You know that he's generally fairly busy around these time of day, but you can imagine that he will probably respond at least by the evening. In the meantime, you continue looking through everything, and it's at the end of this like set of videos that seem to be perhaps documenting, perhaps visually beyond photos, how this surgery went. At the very end, there is another progress update, which is in text again. And almost to contrast just how insane that surgery was, is a very brief, surgery was a success. and then a list of her vitals and what medication she's now on. The following entries seem to be this continuous update on how she's doing, how she's recovering, and there is this prevalent, feeling throughout them with each of the comments that they are almost not, it seems almost as if they're not commenting too often because they are doubtful of this sticking. There is certain comments where they basically say, yep, seems within what we've seen before, maybe a few places where it's worse, maybe a few places where it's better, but it's only at a certain point that you get a more in-depth entry once again, which is fully written as a letter as opposed to any of the standard medical shit. And it says, "We have finally hit the point where we have some decent statistics for this procedure. It's taken countless tries, and God knows the survivability has been dreadful. We've run through countless subjects, and most of them never even survive long enough to reach the point where we can attempt the actual procedure. The fact that we have only reached this point 4 times should speak to how difficult it has been. The cocktails of drugs, the preparations and experimentation with various steps leading up to the procedure have all been in pursuit of developing some degree of reliability in the process. It was only due to the change in stock that was suggested by my colleagues, despite my protests, that this has been possible. We already have so many variables that it seemed arrogant and short-sighted to introduce so many more. I insisted that we needed to more closely control the biology of our stock, to find what the issue is on a more granular level and identify the problems in our process and compounds. Everyone else, however, was in favour of this change when going into Group H's selection. Colour me surprised that despite the mortality rate skyrocketing, despite seeing the resurgence of a host of previously eliminated side effects and complications, and despite our lowest statistics ever in the lead up to the final procedure, here we are. Hope is alive and well, and she is so far beyond what we have seen before. I have no idea what caused this. The albinism is not something that we've seen in our stock before, but upon further testing we can't find anything that would suggest it had an effect on the outcome. Whatever peculiar quirk of her biology it is that caused this is beyond us at this moment. We changed precious few variables in the lead up to the procedure. I fought tooth and nail for that. We already had so many new factors to account for, and I am glad that I pushed for that now, because we can say with some certainty that the cause is based in Hope's biology more so than our own changes. When it comes to our own changes, I am similarly glad that I used Compound F as a basis for Compound H. Case F was the last subject that we successfully operated on. Though the results were unfortunate, it was clearly the right move since we now have a 4th success to study. I've organised to have a meeting soon to discuss the changes we did make, as well as the similarities, and I remain hopeful, pardon the pun, that this was not a fluke, that this is something replicable and that we can identify the exact causes that will allow us to select stock and develop compounds with more intentionality than before. Until then, I have taken note of the exact proportions used in Compound H. We are keeping a close eye on Hope. So far, it appears as if she is indeed what we were intending to achieve, but for how long it will remain that way is an important factor. If things continue this way, then we may very well be on the road to concluding this project. I have suggested we hire additional security staff. We can't risk anyone gaining a conscience amidst all of this. Moments like this, where it becomes clear that the project is indeed possible, have a way of inspiring doubt. While it may be controversial, I have suggested that we hire outside contractors as opposed to requesting aid from government military units. Considering our employer's identity, I have reason to believe that they would prefer we limit the number of possible leaks to government organizations, and instead hire people that we can trust will keep their mouths shut, and that don't have reason to trust the military themselves. I'm sure there will be objections, but we shall see how my colleagues feel. Until then, we'll keep an eye on Hope. The next entries transition from purely medical to equal parts psychological testing. You see that there is now a concerted effort to essentially judge whether her mental faculties are in place. There's tests that are as basic as verbal and non-verbal reasoning, as well as stuff like language and aptitude in mathematics, that kind of thing. But they eventually move on to higher level stuff like morality, fairness, ego, self-actualization and awareness. It's relentless how much they are doing in that regard. Eventually you see that there is a shift towards social testing as well, and what stands out amidst all of that is that there is a suggestion from this mysterious doctor that says, "I'm suggesting that we allow Hope to interact with some of our hired security. They have proven themselves trustworthy, and there appears to be some interest in her. It will also allow us to assuage anyone who has any concerns with our testing, as well as provide an interesting new set of social interactions to study. We'll be able to see her interact with normal people as opposed to researchers and scientists, which may be providing some bias either on her part or theirs. In my opinion, looking at the psychological profile of both Hope and the hired security, this should allow us to provide some satisfactory closure to any questions or rumors that have been going around. Letting them get to know Hope will let them draw their own conclusions and thus rationalize what we are doing here in their own ways." The rest of the entries appear to be recording the results of such tests and the remaining inaccessible files, as we've mentioned.
Vex latches on to that particular detail for certain and turns it over in her mind, but she's very tired and overwhelmed from everything she's been doing, so after hiding the disc, and she'll also hide the gadget she got along with it too. But I honestly think that, like, while part of her feels restless and just overwhelmed, I think she's used to the, harsh rigmarole of being on jobs or having jobs coming up soon. That almost just automatically she allows herself to lie on her couch and pretty quickly falls into a deep sleep just to try and prepare herself and her body for the early start the next day. But what she dreams about is anyone's guess.
You put everything away and you get yourself to bed and you get yourself as comfy as you can, but you can't help but feel restless. It's hard to say that you sleep. Any shut-eye that you do get is pretty much... It's never deep sleep. You toss and you turn, and there's never a moment where you think you'd even reached a point where you're capable of dreaming. And it's basically a few times through the night where you open your eyes and you see the pitch black darkness of your apartment and just kind of lay awake for a bit before trying again. And before you know it,
it's 6 a.m.
Fresh and early. Right. Do you do anything in prep, or do you just make your way?
Vex has very much structured her life around the idea that she doesn't really need to do much prep. She just kind of grabs her stuff, makes sure her gun is loaded, her blades work, and goes.
Well, that's a point.
Oh, yeah, because her skin healed.
Because you specifically brought that up, we can address that right now. You go through your normal... like, checks of essentially, like, keys, wallet, phone. But for you, it's, wallet, killing implements.
Yeah, killing implements.
And, the rest. And that's when you, once again, you look at your arms and you're just like, fuck, that's right. I seem to have healed those. And you're like, well, that's a problem. What do you do about that?
I mean, I don't know what else she really can do. She kind of, like, I imagine there was a rough period of transition when she first got these installed as well. And she just kind of grimaces a bit, scrunches up her face, and she'll just try to flick the blades out.
There is, there is distinct resistance that you are not used to, and it very much is reminiscent of when you first got these things. The thing was, back then, you remember that part of the procedure was that they actually essentially numbed the point in your arm where they were intended to come out, and it meticulously applied nerve cell targeting poison that was designed to essentially permanently numb that part to some degree for the length of you having these, right? It made it bearable, but still not pleasant. It's as you're doing this that you realize that, well, nope, shit, that's not the case anymore. The nerves are completely grown back, and this is the first time that you've ever felt the full force of ejecting a blade from your arm from the inside out. Could you please make me a bloodthirst roll?
Oh boy! All right.
You are successful. So, I will actually say clear a point of blood first. From wherever you like, to represent that this is actually a bit more of a sobering experience than you were expecting. But
I still imagine it's a case where the camera cuts to outside the apartment as we just hear her muffled yelling.
Yeah, straight up. I think there is just a fucking notable scream from you, and we cut back to the inside of your apartment, and there is just a fan of blood that has hit the floor and the walls where you've done this. And you kind of take a moment to breathe in and center yourself before looking down at the blades that you've once again managed to eject from your arms. And you are surprised to see that they have changed in appearance. Whereas before, there was only a sheer metal surface sharpened to a razor point. Now you see that on the running up the center of the blades, not in any way that inhibits their ability to cut with either edge, is this winding flesh and veins that seem to almost have anchored themselves into the metal of your blades. And you realize as well that you feel like you can almost control them a little bit better. It's as if there's muscle allowing you to tense along the entirety of the blade.
Vex experimentally tries to go through the motion that she's practiced 10,000 times of swinging these blades, in various ways, trying to see how different they feel, if she can make use of this in some way, if she maybe needs to make some other modification to them.
For the moment, it just seems to be... It's the only way I can describe it. It's like the difference between going for a run or exercising and you've done a good set of stretches beforehand compared to not having done them before. It feels like they are just they are so limber and so freely manipulated. You feel like there is essentially just part of yourself in these things finally. Which is to say, you don't fully know yet what these are capable of, but it just feels very new.
She probably doesn't think of it that poetically. She probably just thinks, okay, well, let's see how this works, I suppose. But yeah, no, it only, even with that included, it typically only takes her a few minutes to get up and get ready, and she'll, grab whatever is closest to rotting in the fridge and head out.
You put the blades away, and you are pleasantly surprised as when they retract, in place of them healing over once more, you see that a scar once again forms, but this time perfectly cleanly. And you note that they are a lot more, they slide out. You feel them able to slide out extremely slick, essentially. Slurk. But you grab something to eat, and you head out. Hello, welcome to The Break. Happy New Year proper for everybody this time around. I hope you had a great time, and I hope you have a good time ahead of you as well. Once again, I'll direct your attention to the screen if you are listening on YouTube. That is where the fan art is. But otherwise, let's just get stuck in, why don't we? If you've been enjoying Heart of Hope, then you may consider supporting me over on patreon.com/eternal_savvy. Again, that is eternal_savvy. That is where you can send me an amount of money every month, whether it be the minimum amount of $1 or more than that, in order to get hold of an episode ahead of time. Now that we are back onto our normal schedule, that will be resuming as normal. So yeah, if you want to listen to the next episode right now, you can do so for as little as $1 a month. And if you do decide to support me for more, then that's super awesome and super great, but no matter how much you send, you will still get that access. Also, I have a Twitch channel that is the same username of eternal_savvy. You can also find me on Blue Sky under that same name. And you can also find my VOD channel under the only place where that's different, which is staying_savvy. If you want to send in fan art of the show, then you can do that over on Blue Sky using the hashtag Heart of Hope and tagging me. Or you can send it in over on our Discord. If you go to our Twitch, then you can find the link that way. Other than that, I am pretty sure that is just everything covered as usual, so I'll just say thank you so much everybody for continuing to listen, and I hope you continue to enjoy going forward. Have yourself a great time. Let's get back to the episode. Bye-bye. There's not else to really say except you make your way there, and you find yourself waiting. It's at this point that I would like to ask our guests to unmute and join us.
Woo!
Yeah!
My friends are here.
The crowd goes wild. If you would do us the favor of introducing yourselves, and yeah, just anything else you wanna tell the people before we get going.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's good, Heart of Hope Nation? It's me, Patronix or Soleil, whichever you prefer. I'm here. I'm one of the people here. I'm hanging out. I'm a guest. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
And pronouns.
Oh,
as well.
right. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. She, her. Haha.
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 And our other guest.
Ahoy there, ye hardy hopers. How it be?
Yeah.
I didn't know we had
It's
a fucking
me.
pirate.
Veg's overweight
hey
with
guys.
that one pirate video. Like, yeah, very treasure.
Very treasure.
Hey there, everybody. It's me, Rosche. Not a frequent flyer, however, I am a individual who does exist. I'm here today. They, them.
Hell yeah. We can now ask, what order do we think that y'all arrive in? Or do you want to just roll and see who shows up first in what order?
I think
I'll throw a dice.
you know what? Sure. I'm gonna roll off because I feel like when it comes to me and Rosche, perfect. I was gonna say that I would have to imagine that they are explicitly trying to one-up each other here.
Yeah.
But, you know, that makes the single number difference apart adequate, you know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what about you, Iris?
You know what? I'm gonna give myself a -1 because, like, She normally is pretty punctual, and you know, as I said, it doesn't take her long to prepare. But she had a rough night, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? Not
Yeah.
used to your Spider-Man blades and seeing a lady literally just like in all of her pieces, like suspended in the air. You're not used to that?
No, we hadn't seen that part yet. No. Yeah, no. So
Okay.
with
Dude,
that, I think
there-
you both you guys should have your moment, and then I'll come in a bit. Yeah.
We cut to a small but enclosed location with a number of different establishments which sell food or drink or whatever, and there's various levels of people who have cybernetics and various other modifications to their bodies. But one thing that all of you notice on your way to this location is just how much more frequently you are seeing these damned blue butterflies as you approach. It has been pretty much confirmed at this point that these things are tied to the grow tower that you are on your way to deal with. And even as you are getting to this little, well, plaza is a generous term, but as you get to this little area, there is even a couple of butterflies which fly past or, you know, settle down on old dilapidated air conditioners or walls or pipes. And Soleil,
Yeah.
the camera drifts over to your character. Do you want to give us a description and let us know who you are?
Yeah, I will. But just as I'm doing that real quick, so we're in this like plaza generally, right? Like any like where like specific? Is it like a you know, secluded place out in the open? What's the sort of vibe here?
So, out in the open is not really something that happens in this city unless you are in the center of the neutral zone or on the rooftops. Buildings have been built on top of buildings, alleyways connect to one another purely by happenstance. This plaza cannot see the sky. It is, you know, there is balconies where there is like other establishments and walkways and catwalks, but it is purely by virtue of the way that things Lego bricked together that there is even a small amount of breathing space where you aren't, you know, in a single file or double file line going down alleyways, which is why it has become somewhat of a location for meeting up. You can see that there is actually a number of civilians who are hanging out here in the smoke-choked air.
Gotcha. Well, in that case, right, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people around with a lot of different, you know, enhancements, what have you, that they may have. But even among them, this person probably is certainly a lot, as there stands a you know, a notably like muscular kind of woman, right, who has the most prominent feature of a set of 6 massive metallic arms, the ones that would be where arms normally are, being very ever so slightly bulkier and larger than the other 2 sets of arms. Complete, like, metal monstrosities of such. Meanwhile, in terms of the rest of the non-giant gauntleted arms portion, has sort of, like, slicked back, comet-like, kinda, like, grayish hair, widow's peak showing, what have you. And then other than that, wearing very much so, I imagine, kind of, like... What would be, like, the right word? Like... both form-fitting, but more so, like, you know, allowing for flexibility considering the extra arms, like, kind of, like, sportswear, like, adjacent stuff. Of course, a bit more grungy, in this case, right? And a lot of, you know, metallic parts, you know, bulky around such places. But in other ways, basically, like, simplistic, like, shirtwear such that it's clear that they can maneuver the upper body around, which, in this sense, as mentioned, fairly muscular, fairly top-heavy in that sense. Doesn't skip leg day, but it's very clear that it is, like, leg day, singular, and the upper body and arms are the focus, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And in that kind of a deal. As I guess I should actually introduce the name. That's probably important. This is who is known throughout the city as the Iron Asura.
Mm-hmm. You arrive, and it's not by virtue of people being scared of you or something, but purely by virtue of how huge you are, that there is this natural tendency for people to get out of your way as you walk through crowds. Are you the type to lean up against a wall, or would you be the type to go to like an establishment and order a drink or something while you wait?
Almost certainly they are the type to normally go and lean up against the wall, but considering the specific circumstance of which they're meeting, right, in this case, I imagine that she'd be interested in, as you said, going and grabbing a drink as they're sort of waiting around, you know?
You find on one of the, like, upper levels where there's the little, like, catwalk where you can look over, and there's, like, various chairs and stools that people are sitting on, and there is a little bit more room to breathe up on the elevated level. You find one of the places that sells, alcoholic drinks or whatever, and you just get yourself, I imagine, just like a big old beer.
Yeah, something similar.
Yeah. And you perch yourself on one of the balconies, keeping an eye out for the rest of the people arriving.
Yep.
You even note, as you are kind of, just here, you catch with your, with your hearing, you at one point notice that there is someone who is like kind of talking under their breath to a friend of theirs and pointing at you, and you kind of glance over and see that it's very clearly a couple of members of the Collectors who seem to be doing the like, holy shit, that's the Iron Asura kind of thing,
Yeah.
And you don't really have time to think about that as you spot a familiar face stride into the plaza. Hyde, would you like to describe yourself and the rest of it?
Yep. So, hands in his pockets, the dredge known as Hyde enters the plaza looking around. He has short brown hair styled into something of a pompadour. His skin is tan with some patches of red, maybe like hardened material along like his arms, his torso, somewhere up his neck. On his face are two extra eyes, left one below his left, right one above his normal right. And they're all green and piercing in nature. He seems to just be looking around and seemingly just assessing whatever he looks at. Beneath his outfit, his legs are definitely not those of a normal person. They seem, well, modified to be built for speed and endurance. He wears a pair of heavy boots, some slacks. He has some chain adornments around his waist like a belt. And he wears a long, sleeveless coat with studs along it, and a lot of holes, indicating a lot of damage. In one of his hands, as he takes it out of his pocket, he takes out a hand mirror that he simply goes to look at himself in as he walks around. And despite having this air of delinquency, or maybe even, like, intensity, he seems to be, at the very least on the surface, very easygoing.
Yeah, and you're kind of just, you're looking around the square, and can I ask you both to make a roll to see who spots who first?
Yeah, alright.
He's looking in the mirror.
Yeah, no, Ashura, you see that he's unmistakable, and as per usual, he's more concerned with looking at himself than the people around him.
Yeah. You know what? Let's test his reflexes. I got a couple drinks, right?
Yeah.
Throw one to him.
Alright. In which case, Hyde, if you could make a roll, and if you have anything that you feel would benefit you, say, for example, your extra eyes, feel free to add a bonus.
What sort of a bonus?
I believe your eyes normally give you support 2, if that's right.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so add 2 to this roll.
I do imagine, like, you know, as they're looking at themselves, they're no fool. Theoretically, at least. No, they're a fool.
You have 2 sets of eyes for a reason, but unfortunately, man, it's so... You got these eyes because you wanted to be able to look around and still look at yourself, but then you realize you could just keep looking at yourself even more with these eyes. And it's at that point that you feel the impact of a full can of beer slam against your shoulder and hit the ground with a clatter, as it has most certainly been shaken up now. And you immediately turn your head to look at where it came from, and it doesn't take you more than a second to see the imposing frame of the Iron Asura up on the balcony.
Yeah, there's just a solid moment where Can hits his shoulder. He stands there for a solid 1 beat, 2 beat. His eyes slowly drift over as his head clocks upward. Bastard.
Yeah, and you make your way up, and in naught but a moment, you are face to face with the Iron Asura, and you, with your enhanced senses now actually looking at your surroundings, you spot the same 2 collectors who are over on a different table, and this time the other one grabs the other one's attention to be like, "Holy fuck, that's Hyde! What the fuck are 2 dredges doing here, dude?" And, like, they are basically low-key freaking out. But yeah, how do you greet Asura?
As just some small description, right? Effectively, at this point, Hyde, like, when he was downstairs, he clipped his hand mirror back onto his little chain belt. And, you know, he doesn't go to pick up the beer at all. But instead, from underneath his coat, and emerging from a hole, a, like, large and, like, how do I say this without it being weird? Fuck it. Just a girthy red snake emerges from, like, underneath his coat, and literally just wraps around the beer, and he pretty immediately... Not even, like, you know, obviously taking some care to civilians, but, like, he makes his way up there. You get the impression, right, that if he figured it wouldn't cause too much of a scene, he would probably just jump from where he is all the way up to you, but he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. And, Asura, you see him walk up, and you see one of his signature and very threatening-looking serpentine things held onto the beer in its mouth, and
you know, as she notices the snake, like, you know, bite into it, right? It's like, okay, cool. Goes turn her gaze more so over to Hyde himself, right? As with a little bit of a, you know, snicker. You know, I know you're you and all, but if you're gonna be tearing yourself away from a mirror just to finally come out and speak with your good old pal, I don't know, I think you could be paying a bit more attention.
I thought all the extra weight was gonna slow you down.
No need to rush too hard, but thought I'd get the drop on you, I guess, you know?
Seen the prodigy around?
No, not yet.
Thought she set this whole thing up.
No, she'll be here.
Well, unfortunately, considering the role, I think she's probably a good, like, 15 or 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Your first impression is not, great. As, Vex, you arrive, and are unfortunately greeted by the sight of both of them waiting for you. The, air is clearly... It is clearly one of impatience as you arrive, but sure enough, your spotting of them indicates to the both of you that this is the person you're looking for, because you've only ever seen Vex once or twice, and so I imagine you haven't, like, super committed how she looks to memory, but the like turning up of her head and her eye line to you indicates that, like, yep, that's definitely her. And, Vex, do you, like, immediately make your way up to them, or is there anything you want to do?
She'd pretty much immediately make her way up, yeah. And when she gets there, I'm imagining, like, Vex isn't, like, super short, but these two are probably, like, at least a bit, if not a lot taller than she is. She, you know, it's not like people in this city are particularly, like, clean or hygienic, for sure, but she looks pretty bad. It looks like she hasn't showered in a while. Her hair is partially pasted to her forehead, above her eyes, and she just looks like very, very tired, very zoned. Not unfocused exactly, but like it's taking all of her focus to be focused on the present moment, sort of deal. She looks to the two of them. Sorry, I'm late.
Ah, there you are.
Yeah, here I am.
What took so long?
Just not on the ball lately.
Hyde, in one hand he's holding a burger. He just ordered some food while they were waiting, and he's eating it. And in the other hand, he has a second burger, which is completely wrapped up, right? That he isn't doing anything with right now. And upon seeing Vex and just like noticing, okay, this is the one we're waiting for, and like, you know, seeing her, they do like sort of in their usual way tilt their head, and you know, it almost seems like they are like appraising you, Vex.
She just stares back very aggressively neutrally. Well, suppose it's nice to meet the two of you on a more professional basis.
Yeah, let's call it that, you know?
All dredge business is professional, in a sense. Though, I agree with the sentiment, at least.
Do you want to talk on the way, or talk here?
May as well walk and talk, yeah? It's a little bit away.
You start making a move, and it's as you kind of collectively turn to walk that you see a third collector gang member, like, walk past you, give you this look, go up to the other two who are clearly his friends, and just go like, shit man, was that Vex? And then they go, there's a third, what the fuck? And they all just get up at the same time and book it in the opposite direction, as they're just like, whatever's going on, we don't want to be nearby.
Yeah, you better run.
And yeah, you start making your way. It's a fairly short distance, but it is a good opportunity to discuss what the situation is. You all know a couple of things, namely that they of Clay, a very disorganized group up until now, it seems, have seemingly managed to stake their claim on a very valuable resource in this city, which is a grow tower. They are pretty much one of the only lifelines of the city outside of Foundling Creed, having some of the only genuine farmland on the outskirts of the city, which is partially what makes Foundling Creed's smaller size kind of doable in a gang. They have less territory than either of the gangs, but food is power in a lot of ways. And the fact that they of Clay have managed to essentially get their hands on this, at least at the moment, speaks to the fact that something has happened in some regards that is allowing them to do this. It is worth mentioning exactly what their deal is at this point. They of Clay are notable for the fact that they used to be Section C. Some time ago now, there was a schism in the gang when two philosophies regarding exactly what the gang should be came into conflict. Section C have pretty much always been about transhumanism and like allowing people to be what they want to be physically, using mutations and surgeries and all of the things at their disposal, so long as you do what the gang says and remain a member. But at some point in the past, there was a group of members who started to develop the attitude that if they had access to, you know, gene editing, mutation, all of that technology, that it was in fact their responsibility to transcend humanity and to become like basically as like inhuman as possible. There was so much of a heated disagreement about this that eventually that schism occurred, and the higher-ups of Section C made the executive decision to strip the memberships from anyone who was agreeing with that idea of becoming as monstrous as possible. As a result, they were banned completely from the use of any of the gang's doctors and surgeries, though a precious few of those doctors were actually included in that group that was banned. And that ended up being the event that actually caused them to come together enough to name themselves They of Clay, reflecting the attitude that they had towards their flesh. Up until now, though, they've basically just been a group of freaks arguing amongst themselves in the sewers, and occasionally showing up in the city to cause problems. The main worry here is that almost every time that one of them has shown up, they have been strikingly fierce and powerful. What they lack in numbers and organization, they most certainly make up for in danger. Pretty much because they don't care about retaining their humanity. And so they're willing to undergo these like incredibly like esoteric and extreme surgeries, often without any care for the survival rates. And so you don't really know what to expect going into this. And that is certainly something to discuss.
Yeah. As Ashura would sort of turn to Vex specifically. You ever tango with one of these guys before?
Not personally, no. I've only heard the grim rumors. You guys probably know, close to as much as I do, if not more, about the situation. Basically, the deal is we just gotta get in there, wipe them out, secure the area, make sure nothing like this happens again.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, and just as a quick note, Iron Asura, that's long. Is there something else I can call you?
Just go with Ashura.
Asura, right, okay. I've heard your kind of area of expertise, and I know you're friends with Brimstone, but just so just so it's completely clear, we can't blow up the tower. We can't, we have to go in and do things the slow way. They're gonna get real pissy at us if the tower fucking is damaged.
I know. You think I don't know what blowing up a grow tower would do?
Okay, but if I don't say it right, and then it happens, then I feel like the idiot. You know what I mean?
Sure, fine.
I see where she's coming from.
You really think I'm that dumb? Listen, I know I'm the wrecking crew, but I only wreck what I need to, huh? Even if you hadn't told me, I know plenty damn well that if I had funny ideas and just felt like blowing this thing up, Brim would never let me hear the end of it, so...
Yeah, even as his friend, Ashura, you have been on the receiving end of being lectured and chewed out by Brimstone a number of times, though, from what you've heard, a significantly smaller number of times compared to other people. At the very least, it seems that he has some degree of a separation between the professional life with you and, hanging out with you. And, but yeah, no, he's always been a hard ass to pretty much everyone. You included, Hyde.
Hey, just, do what he says, or at least, take his words to mind, and he's usually fine to deal with.
I'm used to him by this point.
Hyde just sort of exhales a little bit and, after he's finished his first burger with the hand that is now burger free, he takes a comb and starts fiddling with his hair, not really looking at himself in the mirror because of course his other hand is relegated to second burger duty, but like the image is important to the man. I can see it.
Yeah. Speaking of things I'm sure I don't need to say, but I'll just get it out there. I don't know how much you guys have dealt with them in the past, at least some I'm sure, but don't trust the collectors while we're out here.
Yeah, I mean, things have been kind of going a little crazy, I guess, recently, so I more so have been just going sort of with how I'm feeling, yeah.
Given with how they went to the hills, I wouldn't doubt that they've got something to hide. But could just be the due reverence and respect we deserve.
I mean, I'm not even talking about running and hiding from us. I'm talking about the fact that this is a situation in the first place. I mean, maybe if they organized or, got a hold of some new weapon or something, maybe they of Clay could take control of the tower for a bit. But even that's a long shot, and considering that they're still there and they need us to go clean up the mess for them, even though they're about 1,000 times bigger, have plenty of competent guys who could go in and fix the problem if they wanted to, I mean, just be ready for anything.
Maybe. Hyde begins like they're going to say something, but then takes a moment, looks to Vex. Hey.
Yeah?
What do you think about the mag situation?
She gets a strange look on her face and kind of folds her arms. I mean, obviously, I've been fucking dealing with that for the past while, with him being put up basically to fuck up, and then me being relegated to, packed duty because of it. I don't know, it was all weird. Fuck if I know why exactly it happened, but I mean, obviously it was just a weird power play by the gangs. It's always something.
I don't get it. This kind of a thing, if it was any normal thing, Brim would never let something like this happen.
Well, he twirls the comb in his hand before sliding it into a pocket. I think the reason why the collectors aren't buckling up and doing anything about this situation, and why the situation with Mags happened, are similar. A lack of respect.
Well, if they forgot who's, top dog around here, that's their own damn fault.
I haven't exactly asked Brimstone for his nuanced opinions on the situation, but, I mean, yeah, it is fucking weird. I don't go around trying to throw my weight around demanding respect or whatever. I don't need any of that, but I guess there's merit in what he says that as an institution, we're kind of a balancing factor, So, gumming up the works like that is just kind of, I don't know, fucking stupid, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's not right. She, sort of exaggeratedly, flings an arm to the side. That whole sitch, it just doesn't... It's not the usual MO. Something's fishy with it. More than usual.
Sorry, can I quickly ask out of character, did Vex ever meet Mag, Savvy?
You had precious few opportunities to do so, because back then you were still in the first, the pivotal first 2 years of being a dredge, where, it's a lot of busy work. There is a ton of jobs that are very much always being asked to be done, stuff which is normally beneath notice, but is sensitive enough that someone who is unaffiliated needs to do them. Even just dumb shit, like going into another territory on behalf of another gang, that was the kind of thing you were being caught up with pretty much every hour of the day. But, despite this, you did meet him on a few occasions. It was once, when there was a meeting that was called by Brimstone, not everyone showed up, but a pretty significant amount of you. In fact, it was one of the few occasions where you met Asura and Hyde as well, though you didn't really end up speaking. Brimstone was making some assertions about a situation that was going on with Section C at the time, and Mag was there, and that was when you kind of clocked him as being a strange pick, because he was extremely excitable, he would make suggestions which were dubious at best, and you distinctly remember, all of you, this one moment, you flash back, where Brimstone is in the middle of talking, and he says,
Anyway, some of the doctors, they've been kicking up a whole fuss about getting some more of these foundling creed out of the territories. They keep picking up on their apartment buildings and trying to do takeovers in order to essentially stake a claim. Now, I'm not one to tell them that they're crazy, but every time I've gone to one of these apartments, they've been empty. So I'm inclined to believe that we maybe start ignoring what these higher-up doctors are saying.
And it's before he can keep going, you see him breathe in to continue talking, and Mag interrupts him. And all of you know, you don't fucking interrupt Brimstone unless you're, like, on terms with him. And Mag was the newbie. And he just goes, Man, I don't see why we can't just teach these guys a lesson, you know? Go in, rough them up a little bit. We're dredges, for fuck's sake. And Brimstone turns to him and just goes,
Sorry, clarify. Rough up the doctors?
Yeah, why not? We're the top dogs, right? He almost looks at him in disbelief before he goes,
No, we can't rough up the higher-ups, you idiot. Like I was saying.
And he carries on. But that in and of itself almost is a microcosm of exactly what it was like to know Mag. He always had this messy hair, this, this attitude of like being a, big fish when he was really just new to the pool. And that's ultimately what kind of got him killed, from what you understand. He was hot-headed in a way that was completely unchecked, and all of you were like, how the fuck did this guy get voted in?
Hyde, shook his head. I thought Brimstone would have ran and then ripped his head off for interrupting him like that. But still, I'm not expecting these gangs to kiss the ground on which we walk or anything. They treat us like kings. Obviously, they got their own hierarchies, they got their own deal. I'm just saying, they can't give us someone like Mags without wanting to play something of a joke on us. Not even saying that he was born bad for the job. Just wasn't ready yet.
Definitely not.